So in this video we'll look at how to expand and simplify double brackets, or in other words two brackets. And usually you will see that the two brackets are right next to each other, just like we do in all of these examples. So we will basically understand this just as we understood expanding brackets. Is we need to get rid of the brackets, and in order to do that we need to multiply everything inside the first bracket by everything inside the second bracket. Now the way in which we can achieve that to make things simpler for us is, what we can do is we can first expand or multiply everything by the x first. So I'm going to focus just on the x and ignore the 6 for now. So I'm going to do x multiplied by x. So x multiplied by x will give me x squared, and then I'm going to do x multiplied by positive 7, and that's going to give me positive 7x. Now I'm going to look at the number 6. Now this here is positive 6, so we're going to do just exactly as we did before. We're going to do positive 6 multiplied by x, so that's going to give us positive 6x, and then we're going to do positive 6 multiplied by positive 7, which is going to give us positive 42. Now we're not quite finished. We've done the expanding part, however we need to do the simplifying part. If you've done it in the order in which I've showed you here, you will find that the middle two terms, in other words the 7x here and the plus 6x, will be you will be able to collect those two like terms together. However, sometimes you might see the x's on in a little bit of a different order. However, if you stick to this example, then hopefully you will find yourselves in the same situation I am. So we're going to go ahead and collect those two terms together, and 7x plus 6x is going to give us 13x. So I'm going to go ahead and write plus 13x. That's what that gives us there. There is nothing that I can collect with the x squared, so that will stay the same. And there's nothing I can collect with the plus 42, so that's going to stay the same. And my final answer is that. So now let's go ahead and look at the second example. I'm going to do this one a little bit quicker because we now sort of have seen one example where the example and the method in which we do it will remain the same now throughout the rest of the examples. So we're going to take this b first, and we're going to do b multiplied by b, which is going to give me b squared. Then I'm going to do b multiplied by positive 7, so that's going to give me positive 7b. And now I'm going to move on to the next one, which is minus 3. Now here you have to be very careful because this sign belongs to the number 3, so then it's not just 3, it's negative 3. We're going to do negative 3 multiplied by b. Negative 3 multiplied by b is negative 3b, and negative 3 multiplied by positive 7 is going to give me negative 21. So now I'm going to collect my like terms just as I did in the previous question. I can actually collect the plus 7b and the minus 3b. Okay, plus 7b minus 3b. And that's going to give us plus 7 take away 3. So 7 take away 3 is going to give me positive 4. So that's how many b's I've got left. So positive 4b. And there's nothing I can collect with b squared, so that will stay the same. And there's nothing I can collect with minus 21, so that will stay the same. That's the answer for that. So when you see signs that are different, you have to be very careful in terms of when you're multiplying them, but then you also have to be careful when you're collecting your like terms. Let's have a look at the next example. Now the next example is very interesting, and it's actually got a special name in maths, which I'll come to in a second. We have a look, the numbers inside the brackets in terms of the actual the digits, I suppose, is the same. We've got a 10 here and a 10 there. The difference being is this one is negative 10, this one is positive 10. And we're going to go ahead and see what happens when we expand these brackets. So we're going to just do it like normal. We're going to do x multiplied by x. So we've got x squared. We're going to do x multiplied by positive 10, which is going to give us positive 10x. Now here we're going to do negative 10 multiplied by x. So that's going to give us negative 10x. And then we're going to do negative 10 multiplied by positive 10. Negative 10 multiplied by positive 10 is going to give us negative 100. Now, just like before, we can see that there's an x term here, and there's also an x term here. So we've got plus 10x, take away 10x. Now, if we're on 10 and we're taking away 10, we're going to end up at 0, which means that there will be nothing left. These two cancel each other out. And so therefore our final answer, what we end up with, is actually x squared, because that still stays where it was, take away 100. And because that stays where it was, plus 10 minus 10 becomes 0, therefore we don't need to write it. Now, coming back to what I said before, where this sort of question or this sort of equation or expression has a special name. The special name that's given to this type of a equation is called the difference of two squares. Okay, it's called the difference of two squares. And the reason why it's got that name is because the difference is referring to the negative sign, and two squares is referring to these two values here. So we've got an x squared term, which is a square number, and we've got the number 100, which is also a square number, and so therefore we've got a difference of two squares. And just be careful when you see questions like this. Another example, just so that we're on the same subject here, we're on the same topic, is you will see things like, for example, x plus 6, x minus 6. When you see that, immediately you should be thinking that's going to give me a solution with a difference of two squares, okay? Or x plus 5, x minus 5, or x minus 11, x plus 11, and so on, okay? Now let's look at the last example, which is slightly different to all of the ones that we've seen before. And the reason why it's slightly different, there's a couple of things we can see. Is the first thing that we can see is we no longer are starting off with an x or a b or a letter. We're starting off with the actual numbers, and the letters are now in the second place, or the variables are now in the second position inside the brackets. And that's going to slightly change sort of the order in which our terms are going to come out once we start expanding. But also what's different is we no longer have just an x by itself, we actually have a 2 in front of it, which will have a little bit of a sort of different impact when we expand the bracket. So let's have a look and see what happens. The manner in which we expand the brackets will still remain the same. So we're going to start off with this number 1, and we're going to do 1 times 1, which is going to give us 1. Then we're going to do 1 multiplied by positive 2x, which is going to give us positive 2x. Now let's have a look at the second bit. Now remember, this negative sign is very important. So we're doing negative 2x, it's not 2x, it's negative 2x multiplied by 1. Negative 2x multiplied by 1 is negative 2x. And negative 2x multiplied by positive 2x is actually going to give us negative 4x squared. So negative 2x multiplied by positive 2x is going to give us negative 4x squared. 2 times 2 is 4, x times x is x squared, and we've got a negative multiplied by a positive, which is going to give us a negative answer. Now we're going to collect the like terms as we've done in the previous questions. We can collect this positive 2x with this negative 2x, and it's similar to the question before, the difference of two squares. They actually cancel each other out because we now no longer have anything left. Plus 2 take away 2 is 0, so these two cancel each other out, which means our final answer we're left with is the 1 minus the 4x squared. And in fact this question actually is also a difference of two squares, but it's a little bit different to that. No need to worry about that. The most important thing is to understand that the fact that we've got the 2 in front of the x, and so therefore we no longer just end up with an x squared or a b squared. We actually have a number in front of the x squared or the b squared or whatever variable or letter we're working with. So that's what's important in this question. But I hope that helps, and that's how we expand and simplify double brackets.